Hello again, my name is Melissa Miller and I am in Brink's Tuesday, Thursday Religion 101 class at 1 p.m. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Greek and Hellenistic religions. The Hellenistic era and the Greek culture was established by Alexander the Great around 300 BCE. Now, many of the Greek and Hellenistic religions had ascetic ethics, such as the Orphics, which was a Greek mystery cult, and many of the mystery cults actually developed in ancient Europe. The Orphics and the Pythagorean cult were vegetarian and practiced secret rituals. The Pythagorean cult was started by the famous mathematician Pythagoras, which most would relate to their math class for the Pythagorean theorem. Now, Pythagoras also taught transmigration in Europe. Even though the Orphics and the Pythagorean cults were ascetic, meaning the self-denial of pleasure, the two that were most ascetic during this time period were actually the Cynics and the Stoics, which went to the lengths of saying that pleasure is evil. The Cynics started as Socrates' students. Socrates urged self-reflection and challenged the sophists in Europe. Since the Cynics said that pleasure is evil, many of them would actually live far away from the city to stay away from the evils within that city. And now, because their doctrine rejects all social conventions, the Cynics were actually known as hermits. Epicurus, however, said the exact opposite. He stated that pleasure is the greatest good and self-control is necessary. The Epicureans were started by Epicurus, and they accepted the existence of the gods, but they said it was irrelevant because they don't care about us, so why should we be obligated to them? They also denied the immortality of the soul because they realized that everything is made up of small particles. Now, before we move on to deities, I would like to talk about one more person, Plato. He was a dualist, and a dualist is one that accepts the doctrine of two different forms. Plato, for example, accepted the dualism of forms and matter, while Neoplatonism, however, they accepted the dualism of spirit and flesh. Now, since Plato accepted the dualism of form and matter, he accepted that everything is imperfect. Now, take this circle, for example. There you go. Although it is what I would call a perfect circle, Plato would say that it is, in fact, not perfect. He would argue that every outer point from the center is different. Either it's a little shorter or a little longer. Either way, it doesn't matter how minute the difference is, but there is still, in fact, a difference. So that is what he accepted, was the dualism of form and matter. Now I'm going to move on to deities. One of the most known deities that many can relate to in this modern day would be Zeus. Zeus is a Greek Olympian deity. He lived during the Greek and Hellenistic era. Zeus was an anthropomorphic deity, meaning he had a human-like form, and he was included in the structured relationship of polytheistic deities, which is known as a pantheon. Dionysus was the son of Zeus, and he inspired the creation of the Dionysian cult. I'm sure many of the students of the class remember this cult as the one that involved a drunken frenzy and the eating of live animals. Now, Cybele and Isis were both fertility goddesses. Isis was the wife of Osiris, which is now a brand of shoe. Isis was from Egypt. She would protect women from having miscarriages, and Cybele was known as the Great Mother. She was from Asia Minor, which is present-day Turkey, and the civil goddess cult is actually the greatest competitor to Christianity. One of the most common rituals in the civil goddess cults was the castration of male priests. Finally, I'm going to briefly discuss the earth deities. Many would pray to these earth deities to help their crops and their agriculture. During certain months, the crops would appear to dry out and be dead. But then as the season changed, the crops would magically grow again, and the community would accept it to be a miracle from these earth deities. This concludes my short briefing on the Greek and Hellenistic eras, and I hope you learned something.